السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته نحمده ونصلي على رسوله الكريم أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم كلوا واشربوا يا أيها الذين آمنوا كلوا واشربوا حتى يتبين لكم الخيط الأبيض من الخيط الأسود من الفجر ثم أتموا الصيام إلى الليل وقال تعالى إن الصلاة كان على المؤمنين كتابا موقوتا. All praises due to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, our nourisher, our sustainer, our creator. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala who has sent Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam as his final messenger. And here we are today on this 12th day of Sha'ban, discussing about a very important matter of our deen, given that when a person is intending to keep fast in this month of Sha'ban, and in order to prepare for the blessed month of Ramadan, then just like how we have so many ahadith of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam, ذاك shahrun, that is the month where people are heedless of, Baina Rajab or Ramadan. And the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wasallam used to love to keep fast in the month of Sha'ban, in the state of fasting, because the a'mal are raised to Rabbul Alameen. وَأُحِبُّ أَن يُرْفَعَ عَمَلِي وَأَنَا صَائِمٌ. So it's important that at least we try to understand the prayer and the fasting time as the month of Ramadan is fast approaching, and given that there are many timetables that are already in circulation, and when you look at the different timings, then one has to ask and question himself, how do I practice on the fast that I want to keep, and how do I keep and start my fast where there is no doubt in it? So let's look inshallah at some of the slides that we have for you, and hopefully that will be an introduction to establish the beginning of our fast, at least for that moment in time. So we begin with the prayer and the fasting times, and hopefully inshallah some of these slides, when you see them on your screen, the first thing is understanding prayer times. When are the times for the prayer? So the start of Fajr, end of Fajr, start of Zuhr, Asr, Maghrib and Isha. So this is a very useful slide that you have. If you see the slide where you are able to at least look at how important time is. Time is of great significance. Every day that is passing by, yes indeed, the sun rises, the sun will set, and another day will come to an end. Our Islamic date and day begins every day after the Maghrib. Just like how today, on this Wednesday, when it is the Maghrib time, we will enter into the 13th of Sha'ban. And when it is the 13th of Sha'ban, then we enter into a time where there will be those who would like to keep their fast. Because every month you have fasting, which is from the Sunnah, Ayyam al-Bid, the 13th, the 14th and the 15th. So these are known as the white fast. So the question will be, if for example I want to fast tomorrow, I would need to know when to commence my fast, because fasting is an ibadah, just like how every day when you offer our Fajr prayer, just like how when you offer our Maghrib prayer, we have to know that Maghrib can only be performed after the sun has set. So there has to be certain Sharia signs. And understanding the twilight, there are three levels of twilight which are defined. You have the civil twilight, you have nautical twilight, and you have astronomical twilight. So people used to visually observe the first dawn and the end of twilight. And this observation is called mushahada. It needs to be observed in the correct direction. The atmospheric conditions need to be right and away from light pollution. So these three levels of twilight is important because after the sunset, when the sun is below the horizon and it reaches 6 degrees below the horizon, that is the phenomena known as civil twilight. And as it goes further below the horizon, when it reaches 12 degrees, that is the nautical twilight. And when it reaches 18 degrees below the horizon, that is the astronomical 18-degree twilight. We had our early Muslim astronomers who calculated twilight always appeared when the sun was set a distance below the horizon. Now we are speaking about the earliest record we have from over 1,000 years ago, the likes of Al-Battani, 370 after Hijrah, and you have the likes of Al-Biruni. So what is meant by 180? So when that sun, and that can be calculated when the sun was a set distance below the horizon. So what it is when the sun is, it's actually 18 degrees. When the sun is 18 degrees below the horizon, that is the astronomical 18-degree twilight. So we want to understand, what is meant by 18 degrees, because this is a very common question. So if you look at the angle of 18 degree, in practical terms, when we use technology to determine prayer times, we are given the following choices, and there are many programs and apps that you can find, and there are different organizations independently calculated the angle of solar depression. So when you find that there are certain apps that are available, and some of the apps, whether it is the Egyptian General Authority of Survey, University of Islamic Studies in Karachi, Al-Qura University, Makkah, Islamic Society of North America, Muslim World League, because you want to know the prayer times. So these programs, and you have your gadgets, and you have your apps. You have now also Wifaqul Ulama have also their app, and you can go onto any one of these apps, and then you want to know your prayer times. So we want to understand what is meant by 18 degrees, because when you go to any one of these apps, you will find that they will give you the calculation of the angle of the solar depression. So if we look at Muslim World League, for example, they are giving you the angle of Fajr at 18 degrees. Islamic Society of North America, that is ISNA, at 17.5 degrees. Egyptian General Authority of Survey, 19.5 degrees. Al-Qura University, Makkah, 18.5 degrees. University of Islamic Sciences, Karachi, 18 degrees. So here is different locations, and they are giving you these timings. And when you look at these solar or Fajr angles, then what it really means, that they are independent organizations. If they have conducted mushahada, and what do we understand by mushahada? It is simply where they go to do the observation of the rising of the sun, but now before the sun rises, they are going to observe the first speck of light, that appears on the horizon, and that light starts spreading across the horizon, which is the true dawn. So we want to understand what is Subh Sadiq time, what is the true dawn. If Allah Ta'ala says that you eat and drink until the black thread of light is distinct from the white thread of light, so what happens when you have darkness? After sunset, you have a period of time where the sun will set and then it reaches a certain level. That's called the solar depression, or the astronomical 18-degree sun that goes below the horizon, and as it comes back and rises on the east, it reaches a level which is the 18-degree angle, solar depression angle, and that is what brings us to these independent organizations which calculated the angle of solar depression. So yes, indeed, we say we do mushahada, but how do you come to these degrees? So it was found that when that light, according to this angle, it coincides with the first speck, and that light which spreads across the horizon, which is the beginning of your Fajr time. So it is difficult to check from the UK due to our high altitude globally, often cloudy skies, light pollution. It has been checked a few times in Blackburn in the 1980s, which gave varying results. More recently, from various coastal areas, gave the value of 18 degrees. So visibility depends upon the surroundings. Light pollution can give inaccurate results. Sometimes a vertical light appears, falls down. It need to know what to look for and where. So we take you to the next part, and this is very important, and that is something called persistent twilight. So first and foremost, we are trying to understand what is the beginning of our Fajr time. The month of Ramadan is fast approaching. We are in the month of Sha'ban, and Sha'ban is the month to prepare for Ramadan. Many cities, many towns in the UK, many masajid and many timetables are in circulations. When I'm just looking at these two in front of me, I see different timings. So if the Imam has the responsibility and he is going to be asked this question about the beginning of his Fajr time, because Fajr in congregation, in Jama'ah, is different from the beginning of Fajr. And hence, when the month of Ramadan sets in, then it is fasting. So the question we have to understand is, when do we commence our fast? When does Sahri end? When is the beginning of Fajr time? Now that you see these different timetables, so what do you do in such, when you're going to have a people going to question indeed about the beginning of the Fajr time? Then let's look at first persistent twilight, part 3 of this presentation. In the UK, we face a particular issue in which the sun does not go below the horizon sufficiently for all the twilight to disappear. So after sunset, the sun in UK, if it does not go below the horizon sufficiently, or it doesn't go enough to abolish the twilight, then that phenomena is called persistent twilight. So it's very important to understand that we have in the UK a period of time where the sun doesn't go below the horizon sufficient enough to abolish the twilight, and that is called persistent twilight. It is more pronounced in northern countries such as Norway, in which they have 24-hour sunlight in the summer. In Norway, which they have 24-hour sunlight in the summer. So here we are in the UK, and we are over 48 degrees. And as you go further up in the northern hemisphere, Norway, countries like that, in which they have 24-hour sunlight. So now what do you do in such a time in the summer? How does a person keep his fast? So the earth has lines of latitude. In countries of a latitude of more than about 45 degrees, the twilight of the sun remains in the night sky. The countries of latitude of more than about 45 degrees, the twilight of the sun remains in the night sky. So the northern hemisphere, and we are looking at the elliptical, or we know that the earth is spherical, and as the earth is moving, the details of how we get sunlight, and then we have night and we have day. This is amazing, because when we reflect on the verses of the Holy Quran, يولج الليل في النهار ويولج النهار في الليل وسخر الشمس والقمر كل يجري لأجل مسمى, how Almighty Allah Ta'ala has kept that the darkness, how it goes into the day, يولج الليل في النهار, and how you have from the day we go into the night. All this, we can reflect on amazing many different verses in the Quran give us understanding of day and night. When we think also about how Almighty Allah Ta'ala in the Quran refers to لَلشَّمْسُ يَنْبَغِي لَهَا أَن تُدْرِكَ الْقَمَرَ وَلَا اللَّيْلُ سَابِقُ النَّهَارِ كُلٌّ فِي فَلَكِ يَسْبَحُونَ, that the sun will never outstrip the night. لَلشَّمْسُ يَنْبَغِي لَهَا أَن تُدْرِكَ الْقَمَرَ وَلَا اللَّيْلُ سَابِقُ, so night cannot outstrip the day, because Allah Ta'ala has kept all this in it's like in an orbit. It is precise, it is amazing, it is so accurate that when we look at this light, the tilt of the earth's orbit, the axis, and here we have the sun rays. Here you can see the tilt of the earth's axis, 23.54 degrees, and there is the equator. And then you're looking at those places in the northern hemisphere. So the angle that we are referring to where twilight exists is when that sun is below the horizon at 18 degrees. So this persistent twilight, the length of the day and night vary in different parts of the world at different times. At the equator, the day and night is roughly the same. In the Arctic Circle, there are 24-hour days in the summer and 24-hour nights in the winter. In the northern hemisphere, countries have longer days with shorter nights. That is in the summer, and shorter days with longer nights in the winter. It's important that this is at least understood, because here in the UK, we are already in a very 48 degrees northern hemisphere. We are more further away from the equator, and hence you will note that in the summertime the days are longer, nights are very short. And when you want to understand about your fasting, then we refer you to this very important slide which gives us a slight understanding of that period of persistent twilight. Because you will note that throughout the year, excluding 2 months, the sun goes below the horizon, and we can calculate with accuracy the depression angle of the sun below the horizon after sunset, and when that sun is about to rise, when it reaches that 18 degrees depression angle, that is known as the true dawn, the subh-sadiq. The twilight is now appearing, and this is well before the daylight. So sun will set, and sun will set in the west, and sun will rise in the east. But every year in London, we have a phenomena known as persistent twilight, and that commences from 23rd of May and will continue until the 21st of July. And hence, when you look at some of the Ramadan timetables and you go to 23rd of May, for example, this is the timetable that we're using in many masajid like Croydon Masjid, and we at the Pearly Masjid. We follow a timetable which throughout the year is 18-degree depression, solar angle, solar depression, that is of the sun below the horizon, until we come to the 23rd of May. Now when we look at why is it on the 23rd of May, subh-sadiq time is so early, we have it at 1 hour 23 minutes. When we looking at tomorrow's date, because there are those who would want to keep the fast, and fasting of the month of Sha'ban, the 13th, 14th and 15th of April. So what do we have for your subh-sadiq and your true dawn time? Yes, if you're looking at your fast, for those who are keeping that fast, subh-sadiq is at 3 hours and 45 minutes. And on Saturday, 3 hours 42 minutes, Sunday, 3 hours 38 minutes. So Friday, 19th of April, Saturday, 20th of April, Sunday, 21st of April, these are called Ayyamul Bid. So do you know that this timing coincides with 18-degree depression angle of the sun when it's coming back on the horizon? And that is what gives you that light that spreads across the horizon. You have the vertical, and then you have the horizontal light spreading. And hence, if you look at this light, you would note that there is darkness, because that is showing you the night. You have your sunset, and look at January, February, March, April. When you come to April, you will note that the sun, as it sets later and the night is shorter, then you have your sunrise. You will again note that when that sun is 18 degrees below the horizon before it rises on the east, it gives you the true dawn time. And hence, April, as we enter into the month of May, there is going to come a period of time which is known as persistent twilight. So this year it means, for those who are following this timetable in London, we recommend and say and advise you that just like throughout the year you are following this 18-degree timetable, but what do we do when it is the persistent twilight period of time, that abnormal period of time from the 23rd of May right up until the 21st of July. So after the break, inshallah, we will continue discussing a very important part of our deen to understand when do we commence our fast. Jazakumullah khairan. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu.